and the Navy are in close communication with ocean shippers, insurers, industry, and other stakeholders, and we're taking steps to ensure shipping in the Red Sea is unobstructed. So that is something that we're certainly going to continue to monitor and keep an eye on. Okay, go ahead.
In the wake of recent job cuts at outlets like the Los Angeles Times, does the administration support legislation like that moving forward in California that would require social media platforms to pay news outlets for their content? And is the administration concerned about the layoffs at the LA Times, Time, and other outlets?
Look, we are always going to support the freedom of speech, obviously, and we believe journalists have a really difficult job, right? To make sure that making sure that they are able to report on the facts. And so certainly we're always going to support that. And we've been very clear in not engaging with the Los Angeles Times while they're going through this process. I know they went on strike, so we're very respectful of that as well. As it relates to the legislation, I haven't seen the legislation. I have not spoken to the team here, so I don't want to get ahead of that.
Thank you, Karine. This week, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called for a crackdown on Zyn nicotine pouches, saying that companies seem to set their sights on young kids, teenagers, and even lower, and use social media to hook them. Does the administration believe there should be a crackdown on Zyn?
That's something for FDA to speak to. I can't speak to that from here. I've not seen that report, so I would refer you to the FDA specifically.
Thank you. There are about 800 gotaways at the border every day, 96,000 since October 1st. Does President Biden want to locate these folks who have disappeared into this country to parts unknown?
So here's what I will say is that one of the reasons that the president is having these negotiation procedures or process with the Senate, with both Republicans and Democrats, as I've said many times before, is because we want to deal with what's going on at the border. He's taken this very seriously. He wants to make sure that we come up with a bipartisan agreement, and we are very appreciative for that. But there's also the diplomatic aspect of it, of making sure that we're having conversations with Mexico, and we've had productive conversations with them. And DHS is they are maximizing its enforcement efforts. And since May 12th, and you've heard me say this as well, DHS has been able to return more than 482,000 individuals who did not have the legal basis to be here. So we're doing what we can, right, at the border. DHS is maximizing their process, doing what they can at the border, but we need help, right? We need Congress to actually act and do their part as well, and we're having those negotiations and we're having those processes. I cannot speak to the 8,000 number you just provided to me. What I can speak to is what we're trying to do on the policy side and the funding side to make sure the Border Patrol, the law enforcement on the ground, have what they need.
Different topic. Is election denying a joke now?
What do you mean? You have to say more than just make a random statement.
Why did the president say, "Hello, Virginia," and the real governor, Terry McAuliffe?
He was making a joke about Terry. He was making
What's the
a joke. If you play it back, it's clearly that the president was making a joke.
What's the joke?
He was making a joke about McAuliffe's previous term as governor.
How are you guys going to convince people, though, that this idea of denying election results is very bad if President Biden is going out and making jokes like this?
Okay, he did not deny it. He congratulated Governor Youngkin. Matter of fact, when he won his election, he did it out of the gate. Out of the gate, really, truly. He congratulated the governor, and not only that, we've had opportunities to work closely with the governor over the past couple of years. And this is a president that works across the aisle. We've seen that many times, and he was making a joke. Go ahead, tell us.
Do you have an update on the border negotiations? Has the president made any calls or done anything over the past couple of days to move those negotiations along?
So the update that I can give you is that our team has been in regular contact daily with the negotiators on the Hill, doing obviously, as I mentioned many times, both Republicans and Democrats. We feel like it's been in good faith. We feel like we are grateful that these conversations have been happening for the past couple of months, and we certainly want them to continue. As it relates to the president tends to have conversations with members of Congress because of his long-term relationships with many of them. Don't have anything to read out, but I can say that our team here has been in regular contact, daily contact with negotiators.
There was reportedly a pretty raucous lunch in the GOP Senate conference yesterday. A little bit of debate over whether or not Republicans should have multiple days, potentially up to 3 weeks to review this, as opposed to a deal being put on the floor and senators being forced to vote on it very quickly. Does the president, who was in the Senate for a very long time, have thoughts on whether or not Republican senators and Democratic senators should have time to review what?
That is something, as it relates to the process and how they're moving forward, the process and the technical and the procedures and all of the things that is related to passing legislation or agreeing on a piece of legislation. That's something for the leadership to speak to. I can't speak to it from here. All right, we have to gather. Let's see. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Karine. Kirby mentioned those ongoing talks with Mexico about immigration. Has that dialogue and like the handshake deal with China from last year yielded any substantive results regarding fentanyl flow?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I believe we made some announcements. Yeah, happy to get back to you with some announcement that we made after the meeting that the president had with President Xi on what we think was a productive conversation on fentanyl specifically. Look, the president has been very clear when it comes to fentanyl. He wants to make sure we get that out of our communities across the country, and has been very committed in having conversation with Mexico and having conversation with China. We're happy to give you a more update on that. We have to go because you all have to gather because the president's heading to UAW. Thanks, everybody.